Hey, Facebook Live people. Here we are, just about getting ready to go live. I am waiting for Jonny to come on and join me. We are about to do this. I think he's here. Let me get him on. There he is. Jonny.
Here I am.
How you doing?
Great. Let me get my headphones in here.
Do I need to tilt or how are we heading?
Good.
We're good.
Yeah.
I'm getting better at this. It's only number 3.
Yeah. Yeah, it looks good. All right.
Well, I have a fun game that we're going to start with today that you don't even know about. So
Awesome.
We're going to be getting going here. We got less than a minute. Less than a minute.
Fantastic. Let me make sure I can see everyone on my computer. Here we go. All right.
Great. You'll let me know as people join.
Well, yep, we got
Would be
people
awesome.
watching.
People are here?
Yeah.
I love it.
We've got a couple. Oh, 5 people, 6 coming on. All
right.
Here we go.
Good news, people. Good news. We're going to have a great day. Making money a must. What every coach must do. And it's been fun thinking about this and asking people, different coaches, questions about just their different journey and what that was like for them at the beginning. So I can't wait for all of us to get into this. And it is officially 12:30, so we are going to get going. My name is Freyer-Jones. I am here with Jonny Roman. And if you're new, if you're brand new watching the video or with us right now, so I have been coaching for over 15 years and run the CFJ Coaching Success School. I've worked with coaches for a long, long time. We are entering our 7th year of the school. Jonny Roman is the director of the school, and he's a super successful leadership coach. He's had his own journey in the path to becoming successful and earning excellent money. And I love this topic today for coaches, making money a must, because I think everyone has a different experience of that, right? And some of us come into that naturally based on our family stories about money, based on we might have come into this profession from another profession where we were earning a certain kind of living. And some of us have different kinds of journeys. So we're going to get into it, but I want to start with something else. So my daughter and I have a 16-year-old. We went to see a friend of hers who was doing roller derby last week. So her friend is 15 years old and she does junior roller derby. Now, I have like vague memories of seeing roller derby. I have not seen anything like that live, nor has my daughter. So we got there and these 15 to 17-year-old girls are on the track, and all like they're just like, there is so much physicality to roller derby. It's like the way the game works is the person is attempting to make a lap, but other people are stopping them, and they're stopping them physically. Like, you're down on the floor a lot, right? And the best part, I think, about roller derby is you get a name. Like, you get to pick your roller derby name that you wear on the back of your jersey. And I was thinking about this in the context of coaching, right? Like, I had a good friend say to me, oh, that's really fun. It's like, what are you willing to fight for? Like, right? Like, these girls, and by the way, my daughter was like, oh, wow, I would feel bad after I knocked them down. We had this whole conversation of like wanting to say, are you okay? And I said, yeah, you can't do that. Like, you got to be like, get up and get your point, right? So I'm going to offer to you that you put in the comments what your roller derby name would be. And I'm going to share mine. I have 2. So I decided, so I have one that was given to me by like Devin Bandison and Tarita Preston, and it's going to be fairly obvious, right? It's Notorious CFJ, which is a fabulous name, right? So I can't let go of that. That's part of my history. But the other name I came up with, as I saw the girls' names, I was like, ooh, I would do crescendo, like end in big letters, right? Because some of the names are things like Mount Crushmore. And I really like this one. I almost wanted this one. Minor Threat was another one. Minor Threat. Another one was like Pound in the Sand. I didn't really get that. But another one was Mischievous. And another one was Karma. So you get to pick your roller derby name in the name of like the name of coaching, right? Like I don't really think of us getting on the road to successful earnings as a fight, but there are things we have to fight for in terms of what we want to create, right? Because you know, one of the biggest things that happens in the journey of making money a must that I notice is that often coaches do not make this a priority. They don't make the making of money a must a priority. And it's the way I see it, and I wrote about this if you got my email a couple days ago or yesterday, is I see other things being done, right? So it's like a lunch with a friend, a long late breakfast with an old colleague, really cool trips that you're posting pictures of, and I'm not judging. And when coaches say to me, oh my gosh, I don't have enough money and I don't have enough clients, and then I go on Facebook or Instagram and someone posts these amazing pictures from their trip in Europe, I go, I don't know. You seem like you have enough money to go do this. So we want to know your roller derby name. And Jonny, of course, I want to know your
man.
Do you have it already?
I have no idea.
I might have to make one up for you. You keep thinking.
Yeah, I will keep thinking, but that's not an area like for this kind of thing. I default to asking my wife to come up with it for me because she's way better at that than I am.
Okay, so your wife, we have to just acknowledge that her roller derby name is already built in because she would be the Storm.
Yes.
And that's the best roller derby name on the planet. So do we have any yet? Has anybody shared theirs?
John just suggested roll over them Roman, which I love. That's great.
That's a great name. I love that so much.
Nice, John. I will adopt.
Well done. Well done. So we want to slow this down, right? As fun as it is to create roller derby names, that is not why you're here. You're here to really get accurate. Today is all about getting accurate. And what you're going to be getting accurate about is where you're at in terms of making money, where you're at in terms of your requirements for money. We want to get really accurate. We want to get accurate on how many hours are you putting in the name of creating a robust and thriving coaching business, right? So how many hours? We want to get accurate about money and how we are making it a must or not making it a must. And there's really no judgment, right? Getting accurate creates freedom because then we can make different choices. So, and one of the things I often see is that at various stages of the profession, I'm not just talking new people, but many times coaches do not have an accurate and realistic idea of what this is going to take, right? We're not accurate. And so we have this idea of like, I want to make this much money, but we're not accurate about what it's going to take. And if that money is a must, we're going to have to make adjustments on what kind of time, what kind of effort we're putting in, and what kind of service we're putting in. So one of the things I want you to start thinking about, you can put it in the chat if you want. Some of you will want to and be totally good with it, and some of you won't. It's like the first thing is, what is the money requirement that you have, right? And that means like, how much do you want to make in the next 3 months? And is it a requirement for your life? It's okay to say, hey, I want to make 40K, and it's a requirement. It's how I pay for my life. Or I want to make 40K, and it's not a requirement yet. I have some other things I'm doing, or I'm working full time. That's fine too. But we want to know what is your requirement. And then, Jonny, is there anything you want to say before I ask you a question?
Yeah. Kind of back to your point about now, we don't always know or are aware of what is required to be successful as a coach. I think, so often we see on social media that coaching is kind of billed as this lifestyle profession, and coaches plaster pictures of them doing all sorts of amazing things around the world, et cetera, et cetera. And it's like, I think it's easy to forget the effort and real consistent hard work that's required day in and day out in order to build your practice in such a way to make that lifestyle possible. And I think so often we get either wooed into believing that it'll be easier than it is, or we just pretend that it is, or whatever, however we fool ourselves into that. And then the reality hits so many of us when we get on this path to start the process of building a business. And so I just want to kind of call that out in a way, because yes, you can create a fantastic lifestyle, and that doesn't minimize the amount of effort and work that's required.
That's right. That's right. And I want to see, has anyone given us answers on names and or on financial requirements, or what they want to make over the next 3 months?
Yeah, well, first of all, I want to call out, we got Brett from New Hampshire, Holly from Baton Rouge, Louisiana,
Yeah.
a couple of people from Colorado, Arizona. So, people are definitely coming in. Jan's name was Mind the Gap Jan, which is awesome. And Kara was saying that 40K is her goal. It's not a requirement, and it's a goal for her right now. And they said my sound is great today. Bonnie called out my sound as great, so that's fantastic.
Don't say anything else about the sound, because otherwise something bad will happen. I'm not suspicious at all. I just want everyone to know that. All right, so we're starting to hear 40K is the goal.
We've got some more coming in too. So
please.
Let's see. We've got 15K, not a requirement, but will help reach the goal I set for this year. Elena said that. Darius said 60K requirement.
Okay.
Kara said, I think defining the work properly is helpful. I've filled a lot of time with work that I don't think is connected to making money. Amen to that.
Okay, that's great. So let's dive in on those, and more people will likely share. So all the numbers are great, and I really hear the 60K, and it's a requirement, so I want to acknowledge that. And then that leads us, who was that, Jonny, who said, hey, I need to identify the work that's required? Kara. Great question. That's a great statement. And that's really the next phase of what we're going to dive into, right? Because there's a lot we can do that does not result in money, right? It results in maybe us feeling better. Maybe it results in a couple people responding. So I'm going to be very specific here, and then I'm going to ask Jonny what he found to be the most useful and helpful in the first couple of years he was really working on his earnings in a significant way, right? So at the beginning, especially now, right, it's so easy to think that activities like, I just had this happen yesterday with a great coach who was saying to me, well, at some point I have to start posting, right? Like I have to start posting. I have to start. And I was like, absolutely not. Like that is if I'm in a building phase of my business, truthfully, unless I already have some following and some skill on social media where like I make posts and people actually like them and respond and comment on them, I'm not going to start from scratch with social media as a place where I'm going to create clients. Not if I don't already have some practice of just posting. Right? Because I'm not saying it can't be done. That's a different journey to learn how to do that and learn how to utilize that. So if you are not already making it doesn't have to be every day, but certainly weekly, monthly posts where people seem to engage with you, don't be like, that should go on my list of required work activities. In fact, it doesn't need to be there at all. What does need to be required is, and this was part of my conversation with this coach yesterday, who's in Puerto Rico, is you need to be connecting and meeting with people. And I know we talked about this last week, but it is a required activity to make that money a must, right? I have to be out in the world connecting and meeting people. Now, I may already have a lot of people in my world, right? And if I do, like whether from other communities or other professions, you could start there, and then maybe you don't have to get out in the world. And you do need to start connecting with those people. The whole goal, the whole game is connecting, starting to nurture, and my calendar needs to be filled with connections and conversations. That is what money results from conversations, and it results from serving people in those conversations. That's the whole game. So however I'm going to get conversations on my calendar, I'm either doing it through communities I already have deep connections in or modest connections in, or I'm doing it by getting out in the world and meeting new people. I mean, I'm going to talk about Charita, and then Johnny's going to share. Charita Preston, who's on faculty at the school, is such a great example. And people's coaches in the school their minds kind of implode when Charita shares, because her level of engagement in the world is super high. So I share all this not as a message of you go do this. You want to 5%. Anything you hear me say, you're like, I'm going to 5%. I'm going to build that into my system, right? You know, Charita was like, I want to learn tennis, so I'm going to join a tennis club. She has created clients from her tennis club. And not only that, she's created people referring her from that tennis club. Charita will go out in the world and sit at a restaurant at the bar and start conversations. Again, you know, she is in many ways, in this context, fearless, right? So she'll go out and she'll hear a conversation. She will hear 4 people talking at a table, and she will walk by and say, you know, I heard you, I'm so sorry, I heard you sharing about this, and I just wanted to add one thing. And she will say her one thing, something of value, and they go, oh my gosh. And then sometimes she said people say, yeah, join us. Would you join us, right? So that could seem way on the edges for people, and it is a possibility. I just talked to a coach who, I forget who it was, because I don't remember, but the context was for them to put on their calendar, they are attending something in their community once a week. Doesn't have to be like businessy. I mean, they might be going to a local concert. They might be going to a local meeting. They might be going to a, you know, women's networking event. They might be going to the Chamber of Commerce. But they were like, I will find something to go do once a week. That will be part of my system. So I want to pause for a moment, that this is really the crux of what is required work activity, right? So often coaches are like, I don't know what to be doing with my day. And I'm like, well, if you've already gone through your last 40 emails, if you've already looked at all the different communities you've been in and pulled out, you know, 3 to 5 people to start with from each community that you're like, you know what, I would love to serve them. I don't know if they have something that I could help with, but I loved their energy at the parent meetings, or I loved how they shared when we were at volleyball, when they talked about this, right? So I want to choose 3 to 5 people from each community I've been in or am in and go, who would I love to serve and connect with there? If those have already been done, then you need to know, okay, I need to expand my pool. I'm expanding my pool of people that I know on the planet. So I'm going to pause, and I want to hear from you, Johnny. I don't remember what your financial requirements were to start. You know, if you can share a little bit about what that all felt like, and then what occurred for you.
Yeah. Well, first of all, we got some great roller derby names that I want to call out. First, Wicked Money Smasher from Brett is awesome.
Oh, that's amazing.
And then Casey, hers is Maniac McGee, which I think is just perfect and it's so good. So yeah, I mean, early on, for me, my requirements weren't huge, you know, like if I was making 3 to 5K, even 3K in a month, like that was fantastic for me. And I also had a part-time job that was helping to supplement a little bit. It wasn't a ton of money, and it was helpful, right? It helped alleviate some of the pressure and tension that I could have felt otherwise, being like, I need to, make it all here, which was helpful for me. Some people like that pressure. I didn't. So that was, those were some of my requirements. And then really it was for me just being in action. I joined programs. I got out into the community, like wherever for me, I had to force myself to be where people were. That was really helpful and important for me. And a lot of times, like, that would lead to referrals, or it would lead to clients, or sometimes I did post on social media as well, just as a way of I was just, any way I could connect allowed, that was me being in action. So yeah, I just found places that I could connect with people where it was, if it was predetermined, like a networking group or Chamber of Commerce events, things like that, that was very helpful for me.
Great. That's great. I'm going to ask the next question. So some of you put the money, like what do you want to make in the next 3 months, and whether or not it's a requirement in the comments. That's great. So here's the next question. What have you made in the last 3 months? Do you know what you've made in the last 3 months? It can be, roughly, you can write, I really don't. You could write, if you know exactly. I don't really necessarily want you to go off and look. I want you to stay with us, but I want to see, do you know your numbers in the last 3 months? Do you know what you've made? Because this is an important part of being accurate, right? Like one of the ways when I'm working with a coach, and we do this in the school, it's like, if I can get a sense of what you've made over the last 3 months, and then I go, well, now let's look at that in the context of your calendar. I can then go, okay, so you made this much having this many conversations. It's like a dial system, right? We go, well, if you want to double that, then we know your number of conversations needs to go up, right? So it's a measurement tool. So if you know what you made over the last 3 months and you're willing to share, throw it in the comments. And if you're like, it's approximate, and it's also fine to be like, I don't know, like I have to go look and it would take me some time. So Jonny, are we hearing anything yet?
Yeah, we've got 4,500, 3,100, 7,500.
Okay.
I don't have any paying clients, so 0.
Yep.
24,000, 0.
Okay.
1,500. An embarrassingly small amount, says Debbie.
Well, believe me, there is no amount that is embarrassing. So let's just handle that one right at the gate. I mean, any money is money, right? So like in the school, when we always announce the monthly billings of the entire class, right? So we collectively share the billings of the entire class each month. It's super fun for people. It's uncomfortable. There's lots, and part of the reason we do that is because it helps normalize the conversation of money. We're not going to keep what we made a secret. We're not going to keep what we didn't make a secret, right? Because we need to be okay with whatever we're making. And sometimes we'd be like, does anybody have, it's Friday, does anybody have any money? And they'll be like, I need $250. The entire class is like, woo! Because $250 makes the pot bigger of what the entire billings are. And it matters because money, clients beget clients, money begets money, and we have to start somewhere. I mean, I remember when someone wanted to pay me for 1 session, and I was so like, 1 session? That's like nothing. And Steve Chandler was like, are you joking? That's $250, Carolyn. That's 1 session. That's more practice. That's one more thing you're getting to do to serve someone. 1 session leads to 2 sessions. And that's how it goes, right? So I want to challenge you, Debbie, to be like, all right, am I willing to consider making any money is really good. We had a coach, I always talk about him. He's like our poster child. For his entire first year in the school, he made zero, nada, right? And he just stayed with it. He was just like, I'm gonna do this. Came back his second year. It took a little bit, and he finally started making like money, like good client money, good fees. But it took a while, right? So
Six figures he made.
Yeah, we want to normalize that. It's okay if I'm doing the work, if I'm having conversations, if I'm getting coached, if I'm tweaking my system, and I'm like, oh, I'm only having 2 conversations a week. And you hear me say, you know what, to really turn the volume up and see, you really need to be at anywhere from 12 to 15 a week, right? 12 to 15 a week is a healthy week for a coach who's building their business. It's different territory when where Jonny is, right? He doesn't have the bandwidth to have 15 conversations a week, but there was a time when he did, right? And his whole game was like, how do I build this up so that a week, and 15 conversations, so that's like what, 3 a day, 3, 6, 9, 12, yes, 3 a day. If I'm having 3 90-minute conversations a day, my whole day is still not filled. My whole day is still not filled. So I want to share those numbers. We have the handout if you want it on our calendars or everything. We can send that out. You can email us. That will be the giveaway today, because that's a measurement, and that helps make money a requirement, right? So money being a requirement means I'm willing to make sure my calendar reflects that money is a requirement. Now, usually, and I'm sure, Jonny, you'll tell me if this is in the comments, usually someone is like, how the hell does someone get 15 conversations a week on their calendar? Like, if it hasn't been asked, it will be. So I want you to know we're going to talk about that. But I want to pause and just ask you, Jonny, and anything that comments you feel like are good to share. I just want to hear you talk about, like, when it became clear to you and you got more accurate about what was required in your day-to-day job to create money as a coach, like what that experience was like for you, as you saw, like, oh wow, like I got to beef up what's on my calendar.
I mean, for me, being in the school and the first year, I often talk about how that is the year that I became a professional coach, where I really got clear that I was just part-timing it and calling it in and not taking it very seriously, and not being much more willing to hide, I guess we might say. And then that transition throughout the 6 months of the program to like, oh, no, I really need to take this seriously. I need to show up every day. I need to start putting myself out there and start getting conversations on the calendar. And, early on for me, like I kept my fees very low so that it felt easier, like the conversion from conversations to clients felt easier, and it was for me. It was like I kept my fees pretty low so that I could get the practice and have yeses and build my professional self-esteem, and so little by little it is really what it was sort of. It wasn't overnight. It was over really the 2 years that
Right.
I was in the school. The first year was sort of my individual practice, and the second year was when I was enrolling for my men's retreat that I wanted to do. And God, I probably sent out 100 invitations in the first 2 months for that, just generating conversations, as many as I could. So it was a process over time.
Yeah, it's a big process. Look, and I really, I applaud anyone who's in this game, right? This is a significant game to play, especially if you've never built your own business before and haven't had any context for that. Like, what does that mean? Like, I got to generate the energy and the wherewithal to be at my desk for 6 hours a day and not let myself wander off to fold laundry, look at Instagram, do the dishes. Like, I really mean it. Like, this has to be a priority. I talked to someone the other day and she was like, yeah, my house is pretty messy. I go, yep, because it's like, you want to be really clear. That won't get done until after 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock, or that won't get done until this weekend, right? That you really treat this as 100%, as Steve Chandler says, blue collar job, where it's like, okay, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna wrestle with myself. In terms of our roller derby names, the only person we might be wrestling with to get through to our full-time job as a coach is ourselves. No one else is getting in the way as we're trying to make our way around the track. It's us. So think about that in the context of your roller derby name, right? Do we have any questions or comments, Johnny?
Yeah, Lisa's asked, is a conversation considered a coaching session / call, or could it be a networking / get acquainted call?
For the first, let's say 3 years, I'm a fan of, they both count. They are different, but they both count, right? Because a general connection call, right, where I'm getting to know you, I always say to people, look, we don't know if we can help someone. I mean, I know that's sort of this, I think many coaches have this grand assumption that is not always accurate called, I could help anyone. I don't know. Like, if I talk to an old colleague, I may or may not be able to help them. So I don't want to assume that I can. And I want to do a Zoom coffee with them for 20 minutes and find out how they're doing and hear more about their lives and be really curious, right? I want to be super curious and relaxed. And I want it to be okay if I discover I didn't hear anything really that was like, I might be able to help you, right? That's okay, because this is a long game, right? Like, I have somebody I've been nurturing, I don't know, for a long time. I'm good with it, right? Like, they're not in the coaching world. This is not a coach, but it's someone I would love to serve. I think I could help them, but I'm like, I'm in no rush. So what if it takes 3 to 5 years, right? I am not going anywhere. As Michelle would say to people, hey, I talk to people all day long. Some of them become clients and some never do. And that's okay too. If you are talking and serving all day long, money is coming. I really want to be clear about that. Now, there are coaches who serve all day long, but they're not creating context for those conversations. And then money tends not to come, right? So there is this realm of coaches who are attempting to get their business off the ground, who are serving, and there's not a structure to the conversation that lets the other person know, oh, Johnny does this professionally. Like, he doesn't just talk to people. I mean, yes, he serves, but like, this is his work in the world, right? So learning how to be a professional coach, not just someone who talks to people all day long, is really important. And that means language. But when I'm in a connect call, that's just a connect call. I mean, someone might say, what are you up to? And I say, oh, I'm coaching. I do that full time now. I'm a leadership coach and a life coach. And they go, wow, I didn't know that. Yeah, that's what I do. I love it. And I'm going right back to them. And I was like, say more about what's happening on the job that it might change. Like, I'm not delving into how much I love coaching, and I'm not talking about coaching, right? We don't talk about coaching. We give people experiences of coaching. So connect and full coaching, like, enrollment conversations, they both matter, because the connection and the nurturing is what leads to a bigger conversation on our calendar, always. That's what happens, right? We do reach a certain stage where if someone in our community knows we're a coach and we know that they're creating something new or some challenge, if I write to someone now and they know who I am, I might say, hey, I noticed you wrote about this. If it would be helpful, we can have a conversation. They know me, I have credibility, and they might go, yeah, that would be amazing, Caroline. But that takes a while for that to occur. That by no stretch is that an overnight experience. All right, Johnny, are we getting any comments about the ratio? It's really important to go, if you're not making the money you say you need to make, but you're making some, You want to look at where am I, what am I missing on my calendar? Am I only talking to 1 or 2 people a week? That's a big key in making money a must. All right, Jonny, go ahead.
Yeah, Jennifer, she asked a question if she can include conversations for Messenger or someone that she connected with on Facebook from their post in her tracking, I think.
Oh, look, I think if you're going to track at that level, first of all, bravo to you. Secondly, I think that could be like a segment, right? Like I could, if I wanted to track, I could put like connections in Messenger on social media. It's like a gentle connect, right? The goal always, ideally, is that we're going to have a live conversation in that. Now that could be 3 months from now. That could be 3 weeks from now. So yes, you could track that. And that I would put in a slightly different category than someone, unless they're responding, right? And they're really engaged in the conversation via Messenger. I consider it a little bit different. But if they're engaging with you, then that counts from my point of view. What do you think, Jonny?
Yeah, I absolutely. I mean, especially early on, like, yeah, like however you're connecting, however you're engaging with people, track that. Like it's very helpful to get a sense for the kinds of connections that you're making out in the world and the potential conversations and things like that. I'm 100% game for including if that happens in Messenger or a social media post or for me, like in the beginning, one of the things that was so valuable for me to hear when I was sitting in the school the first weekend, because I was like, I don't have a community. How am I supposed to, be a trusted source of transformation in my community? And you or Amber, Chris, I can't remember who said, even if you get anybody who likes a post that you put on Facebook, like that's part of your community. That
That's right.
alone can be part of your community that you've cultivated over however many years on social media. And that's a potential connection. Like that's something that you can cultivate and potentially turn into a conversation. And I've had people who have commented on a post of mine on Facebook turn into clients before. And so, yeah, I mean, it's like, yes, if you're out in the world connecting, whatever mode of connection that works for you, like as long as that's creating those connections, I think it's completely valuable.
Yeah. I want to go back to something because I want to see if this is something people are willing to do. So to me, the fastest way to see to what extent you're making money a must is to start tracking your hours of how much time you're spending in the game of building your business. And that means I'm sending emails, I'm getting out meeting people, I'm having conversations, and I mean track your days. So this is a little bit different than tracking numbers of conversations and tracking connections or any of that. This is about what time am I getting to sit in front of my computer? How much of that is actual connecting work? How much of that, right? So you literally would put, like you'd add it, like you'd have a timer and you'd be like, all right, I'm starting an email, that counts. You'd craft your email and you'd send it. You're like, okay, that's like real work time. Then you would do the next one. And then you might be like, all right, I'm gonna do some connecting if you're on social media via social media, or I'm gonna do some connecting. I'm about to go to my kids' pickup at school. I'm committed to connecting with at least 2 people there. Just gentle, like connection, getting to know them, right? That counts in your workday if you are officially making it that. None of this like, oh, I came home, oh crap, I only put in 3 hours today. Ooh, I went to my kids' pickup. That counts. No, this is intentional. So I invite you, if you really want to go to what degree am I making money a must, is to track for the next week at least, right? Because we're going to be together one more time next Wednesday. Between now and next Wednesday, be like, all right, starting with the rest of our day today, if you're like me on Pacific time, or start tomorrow and be like, okay, I'm going to track for Thursday, Friday, and then Monday, Tuesday of next week. how many hours I put in the day towards this. It's quite illuminating, and for some people, quite sobering, right? Because if my number, and by the way, there were certainly days early on where I had to get real about like, am I putting in a full day here? Am I really doing that, right? Because all of a sudden I saw 4 hours and I was like, 4 hours? I mean, Steve Chandler was like, I think you know, you don't need me to tell you, right? That's not a full work day. I was like, I know it's not a full work day, right? So that is the fastest way to go, am I really making money a must here? Or am I paying it lip service? Or I just didn't know. Like, look, it's easy to be like, I think I'm doing a full day. Measure it. To me, a full day is 6 to 8 hours. Now you may be like, Carolyn, I cannot sit at my computer for 6 hours. Then go out in the world, right? If you're like, I need to break this up, find something to go do where you could serve someone. And I mean that because I understand not wanting to be behind a computer that long. So that's real. And then you need to be using your time usefully in the name of building your business in other ways. So if you're willing to take that on, throw in the comments, I'll do it, right? Like I'm going to I'm going to measure my time at work in the next 4 full days that we have. And if you have questions about that, I want to hear them. Are there questions?
Yeah.
Yep.
Jan wants to know if they can include their coaching hours.
Oh yeah, I think that's absolutely, that's work, right? You're serving a client. And by the way, if you have one client, like that's an incredible thing. You want to serve them. You want to make that client, like, serve them as much as you can. Make that person, you want them to be like, holy cow, that person served me so well and so above and beyond. So one client is fabulous. And if you have more, that counts in your workday. Sometimes it's a little harder. I don't know if you felt this way, Jonny, but once I had clients, then I had to really be even more intentional, right? Because I was sort of like, ooh, I have clients. I'm done. And it doesn't work like that when money is a must in your life, right? Then it's like, oh, I need to fit in enrollment time and this kind of time elsewhere around the clients I have. So do you want to, Jonny, do you want to talk about that, or if someone has a question or is asking?
We've got some questions.
Okay.
And then Jennifer is going to do it. Kara said I'll do it. Jan said I'm in. Anita said I will. Melania said, you mentioned last week a lot of coaches invite too quickly without enough nurturing, but I actually have the opposite problem. I'm great at connecting, but I experience a lot of resistance when it comes to inviting people to coaching conversations because I fear coming across as grabby or salesy. I'd appreciate any tips on how I can shift away from this way of relating to inviting.
All right, so Jonny, I'm going to want you to answer that first, because my perception is you had some of that, right? Like, there was a lot of thinking about inviting and you know, how you might be perceived and all those things. And I also want to offer, before you answer that question, and I will as well. So I was thinking, because I know you've all seen me, right, with this every single week. So if you can come up with a good roller derby name that somehow involves coffee and coaching, like, extra points to you. I just want to offer that. I've been thinking as we're sitting here and nothing's coming because I'm here serving you. That's my job. So, and now Jonny, so will you share like how you got into a more of a, you let go of any kind of concerns and was like, okay.
Yeah, for me, the biggest difference that worked for me was I learned a distinction early on between proving worth and providing value, and becoming aware of, you know, when I was insecure and feeling like it wasn't flowing, or I was worried about what they were thinking about me, I identified that I was improving worth. I was attempting to prove myself, to prove my worth, to prove that I was good enough, etc. And when I made a distinction, a shift inside of me of like, well, no, this is not about me proving that I'm worthy. It's just about providing value. And that can look a million different ways. That was a very valuable and helpful distinction for me to hold inside as I was interacting with people, because it was very easy for me to get pulled into insecure thinking, and I realized that was just me believing that I needed to be something that I didn't know if I was. And so shifting to, hey, my only job right now is to just provide value, whatever that looks like. It could be offering a suggestion or a resource, or just sharing a compliment or anything, right? An acknowledgement, anything that could provide value. That made the shift for me.
That's great. And I want to add to that. Who asked that question again, Jonny?
Melania.
So Melania, I think there's a really important thing here for you to consider, and you can answer it in the comments. It's like, if I asked you, if this person spends more time with you, will you be able to help them more? So I'll ask it again. If this person spends more time with you, will you be able to help them more? Now, my answer to that, if I ask myself that, is yes. And the only way that can occur is through a longer conversation. So it's like, rather than think about it in the context of what I need or want, my money, my concerns, my rent, I want to think like, if I don't invite, will I be able to serve them? No. It's like, I can only serve if I open that door up to allow for that, right? So I want to be in the name of like, the only way that I can make a bigger difference is if I serve them more and I spend more time with them. And the only place that can happen is inside of a conversation. It can't happen with me over here thinking about how I'll be perceived. Now, they can say no. That's totally fine. I can tolerate a no, because there's lots of things in life that include no. And if that's uncomfortable, I'll work with that, because that's part of my growth. And I'm really clear, like, I am here to serve. Whether or not someone pays me, whether or not they become a client, the only place that can happen is inside a conversation. And I want to make sure that I'm doing that. I don't want to be the reason. Who said that? Is that Charita? Charita's famous statement last year that a lot of the coaches took on was, I will not be the reason my business does not succeed. I will not be the reason my business does not succeed. So I'm not going to let my own mishigas of thoughts that are about me going to get in the way of me spending more. I mean, you know, people have heard this story 8 million times. I mean, I talked to Jonny. I had more people talk to Jonny. I mean, this guy got served so much. And often people are like, even Amber Chris, who was full-time with me at the time, she's like, you're gonna talk to that guy again? And there was some part of me that was like, I am not letting this guy go. I'm going to keep serving him. I'm just going to keep doing it. He may never come to this school. It's totally fine. But that's what I wanted to do. And I knew I could help him. I mean, I knew that shadow of a doubt. No matter what Jonny's thinking was about himself and all the ways he was getting in his own way, I'm like, I can help this guy. I can help. And if I stay with him, I think he'll start to see that. So I offer that, Melania, as a way to be in this, and let me know if that's helpful.
While we're waiting for Melania, we've got some suggestions for.
All right, let's hear it.
So we've got Boss Babe Barista, the caffeinator.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, the caffeinator. And the Caffeine Crush Coach. That's from John.
Okay, everyone just made my day. So thank you for entertaining that. And that's another thing, right? Like, I think if you haven't already realized, if you've come to all the Facebook Lives, or if this is your first, I think having fun and lightening up the whole effort around creating a successful business is really important. Like, we laugh a lot at the school. We have a really good time, and we laugh at things that initially may not even occur as funny, right? But like, when we're together, somehow it all becomes funny. The whole endeavor becomes kind of funny, right? The way we overthink, the way we self-center, the way we are kind of can get obsessed about what if I do it wrong? What if I do it badly? Michelle would say to people that there's no way to mess it up if someone's meant to be your client. There's no way to mess it up. And I would always add to that, there is one way to mess it up, and that's to not offer. That's to not engage, right? If I stay alone in my own little room and I don't do anything, that's a system where we don't make money unless, right? Because remember, this is all about systems. So if you have a system in place and you're not creating the money you want or need, that system isn't working. So I want to be really upfront about that. If you already know, like, I'm not making it happen, I'm just not, your system's not working, and you want to be like, okay, the current system I have is showing me I'm not making money unless I need to change my system. And I need to put new things in my system, right? And that's called, you're running experiments, right? Where it's like 5% more engagement in the world, 5% more nurturing people that I poo-poo, right? Many of us do this exercise where we're like, oh, that person, I couldn't help that person, or that person, they're too much, you know, they're so far along from me. Like, why? Anytime I get nudged about someone, anytime, one of my greatest practices in me demonstrating to me that money is a requirement is I write to them. I don't care if they ghost me. I don't care, but I'm like, nope, that person keeps coming into my mind. I'm going to write to them. It's like, that's how we create making money a must, right? And we don't let ourselves off the hook. So that's really important in this system, right? Oh.
Well, first of all, I want to call out the right on time, the audio tinniness came back. This has happened every time about an hour in. And so it usually resolves on its own within a few minutes, everyone. I want to call that out. And then someone said they lost live video. That hasn't occurred for me. I'm curious if anybody else is having that experience, but I'm not having that. I'm not seeing a loss of video.
Okay.
So I do want to call that out, and your audio seems to come back.
Okay.
And we got video. All right.
Okay.
Good. And Dave has a new name for you. CFJ Star Bucks Your Ass.
All right.
That's fantastic.
I'm going to go back after we're done, and I'm going to go through all of these. So thank you, everybody, for that. I appreciate that. That's an awesome one.
Yeah, that's good. Okay, we're good with video.
All right.
Everybody's commenting on that.
So has Melania responded? And are there any other questions, right? Remember, today's all about getting accurate about money.
Yeah.
And the next question is coming.
Yeah, Melania said it was very helpful. I can't find her post, but essentially it was like, yes, that was very helpful. And then Kara had a question. So did you just keep serving or having conversations with me without getting paid because you were inspired to? Like, what was your thinking behind that?
Yeah. I mean, really, the bottom line was, I knew Jonny, right? Jonny and I knew each other from the University of Santa Monica community. And I didn't know him well, though. Like, it's not like I had a relationship with him. And he wasn't a friend of mine in class. We didn't go through the program together. I knew him a little. And so it was really just that, I like a good challenge. So you have to know that, right? Like, there was a piece with Jonny that I was like, this guy, I'm not letting this happen. This guy, so I love a challenge. And that can be really helpful in the context of growing a coaching business. I want to be clear. I don't want to stalk people, because that doesn't help when we're creating individual clients. Stalking is not something where people feel warm and fuzzy. But I'm gonna play a long game, right? It's like, all right, you're gonna hang out over there. You're not ready yet, but I'm gonna keep nurturing, and I'm going to keep sending things, not again in a way that feels like this is too much, but I'm going to keep them on my radar. That might be once a week, that might be once every 2 weeks, and I'm going to pull out interesting things, right? So for example, somebody shared with me yesterday, a coach was sharing with me that one of the things they're doing right now is they happen to have a lot of male clients. And they're like, I'm reading things about men to help me just because this is how this person likes to learn. And I know of a book that another coach I know is reading that they love, that's for Men. It's a book by Terrence Real, who's a coach, for those that are interested. And it's a recent book. It's like, oh, the title is I Don't Want to Talk About It. I Don't Want to Talk About It, by Terrence Real. And it's like, I don't want to talk about it. I think it's like The Secret of Male Depression. I love the title though. I don't want to talk about it. And so I pulled it off Amazon and sent it to her. She was like, oh, that's fabulous. I'm getting that book. So it's like, that's part of, Kara, becoming a trusted source of transformation. I'm not going to harass you if I want to enroll you as an individual client, but I'm going to stay around, right, in little ways. Now, remember, I was talking to Jonny specifically in the context of the school. So that's a group. It's a school, but it's essentially a large group. When we're enrolling into groups, totally different game. Like harassing in the name of getting Jonny into my school, that's allowed. Groups are different, right? Because I'm not enrolling Jonny into me. He's not an individual client. I'm like, the school will help you. Like, Jonny, don't go this alone. Like, and we had enough of a relationship where I could nudge him just because we had the credibility of being in the same university together. So that's an important piece for people, right? When you know someone from a similar place, your shared schooling, a parent community, maybe it's a spiritual community. There's an immediate, like, I don't know them well, but I know that they've been in this community and we have a shared experience. So I had known that Jonny knows how to work hard, because anyone who earned a master's degree from the University of Santa Monica worked hard, right? That was not a joke, completing that program and the homework. So I knew that Jonny was able to do hard work, and he knew that I was able to, right? So there was this, so you want to think about, when people know me from another community, there is immediately, I have some sense of connection and credibility that can be super useful. So that's an important thing. And I just like to challenge, Kara. I was like, you know what? I can't even tell you. There was something about Jonny where I was like, it is not acceptable to me for him to be walking around the world talking like this and thinking that he can't do this. And that can be useful too. Like, I have written to people who I have met with, and I have said to them, and this is individual clients, I have said to them after we've talked, I just want you to know, it's totally fine if we never do this together. And I want you to know, like, it's really, I lose sleep at night knowing you are out there thinking that you're not capable of doing this. I lose sleep at night, right? Because sometimes I do. Like, I wake up in the middle of the night and I think about people, right? And so I want to tell them that. I think that's a really important piece in our communications, that when someone is like in our minds, that I tell them they are. And I also want to say, hey, I'm not okay with you thinking you can't make money at this, right? I say that often to coaches. That's part of why I do what I do. Like, I'm not okay with people thinking this is not doable. This is doable. And it's going to take real consciousness about how much time you're putting in and what you're doing with that time. Are there more? Wicked Money Smasher? I like that one, Brett, too. Was that his? I might be seeing some of the comments late because of the way.
Yeah, I think you are, yeah.
What else? Are there other questions, Jonny?
Yeah, a few questions. I just want to talk briefly about being on the receiving end of that. You know, it was close to 6 months before I made the decision to join the school. I distinctly remember the first conversation, getting off the call. I think you spent 2 hours with me. Like, really not interested in the school, and yet very interested in the value that was created on that call. Like, there was this just percentage of feeling like, oh wow, that was really actually very helpful. And to consider having someone on my side where I knew I didn't have to do this alone was very intriguing to me. And I was still a no for the school at the time. But that it was like a little wedge of value that got kind of stuck in my brain, where even though I was a no for the school, that was very interesting to me. And and so that was just like the first building block, if you will, of value creation, where it just sort of opened this new awareness in my mind. And it took a long time before
Yeah.
I really connected with the potential of that and making that big of a decision for myself.
And I think that's really important what Jonny's saying. So we often are like, this is where I think coaches also fall into a trap. It's like we talk to someone once or twice and they're like, oh, they're not, why aren't they deciding? Why don't they want this? Why is it not happening? And we sometimes forget that we ourselves are quite long decision makers, right? Like I chuckle to myself because people take all sorts of time as they decide whether or not they're going to work with me individually, whether or not they're going to come to the school or any group I do, right? And then if it's a coaching group for coaches, they get frustrated with someone's long decision window. And I'll be like, do you remember when you and I talked about you doing this? And they're like, oh, right. That we honor that people's ways of making decisions, right? Some of us are like, I'm on it, I'm doing this. I have enough of I'm more of a risk taker, so I'm willing to put my money down and go ahead and work with this coach. And others of us, we have a long road from I'm thinking about it to I'm doing it. Now, for you as coaches, you want to be able to ride both waves with someone, right? Like when someone's like, I need time, I want to say, take all the time you need. Even if I'm like, uh-oh, my rent's due. You take all the time you need. When I'm in that mode of like, am I slowing down the progress of my own business by not trying new things, by not increasing my amount of engagement? Am I doing the same thing that I get frustrated with potential clients about, right? Like you want to look at your own gaps of action, right? Because remember last week, one of the micro habits of financially successful coaches is do it now. So everything I'm saying to you today and everything Jonny's saying to you today, you want to get on it now. So that means if you're going to measure your hours every day, not just conversations and connections, but actual work time, you want to start, if not today, first thing in the morning, right? If you're like, ooh, I want to try that thing that Carolyn talked about. Like I want to look at the money. If you didn't know your numbers today, if you were like, ooh, I don't know what I made in the last 3 months. Today, when we hang up, or tonight, you want to be like, I will know my numbers, right? That's part of our job as professional coaches. Everything is about closing the gap on ways that Jonny and I are coaching you right now and saying, do this, do that. You want to close the gap and be like, I'm going to take that on. And only 5%, not everyone's going to be a Tarita Preston, like just out in the world almost nonstop, right? She's not really, but it can occur like that for coaches in the school. Like, oh my gosh, does she ever? She does stop. But it's like, you can be like, no, and I'm not waiting. Like, don't wait 2 weeks. Be like, next week, I'm injecting some new things into my system. In the name of demonstrating, money is a must. Creating this business is a must. Getting to the next 100K, if you're already over 100K, that's a must. It's not like I'm playing. I'm demonstrating that in my hours, in my awareness of my numbers, in all of it. And I'm willing to talk about it.
A couple things. We have some questions. Let me go to those.
Yeah.
So Anita asked if they're not really responding, do you keep sending things, or only if they're engaging back? So this was from a little bit ago.
Yeah, I mean, it depends, Anita. Like sometimes I'll do it for a little bit, and then if I don't hear anything, I'll drop off for a while. But then I play the game of amnesia, which some people know about, coaching amnesia. Like 3 months go by, and then I create a whole new communication, and I pretend that they never ghosted me. And I'm like, hey, like I just saw this thing, and like I create a whole new thing. So I might do it for a little bit, then I'll get quiet, and then I might come back later. So just to answer that.
Yeah, great. And then Holly asked, in addition to connections and conversations, do you count continuing education and learning into your weekly total of intentional time towards building your business? Like watching webinars of great coaches or reading or things like that?
For me, you can share yours, Jonny. How I relate to that is it depends. So here's why. Because I could spend a lot of time watching amazing things on, all the great coaches, right? Steve Chandler, Byron Katie, Nancy Klein, right? Mary Holnick, Ronald, I could do that, and I'm never getting out there. So I want to be watchful. Like, I want to create, that's important time. It makes us better coaches. But I want to be really careful. During the business day, my job is to be out there in the world and connecting and serving. Nighttime, early morning, my lunch break, perfect time for those kinds of things. Do you have a thought on that, Jonny?
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. I mean, those are not direct money-making activities.
That's right.
Watching, improving your skills, all of that is fantastic. Like it's required as a coach, and they're not direct money-making activities. They are not directly going to lead to you making money. They will indirectly lead to making money because
That's right.
your skill level will grow. You'll be able to serve. Distinctions will improve. So you'll become much better as a coach, which will serve you in making money in the long term. And they're not direct activities. And that's, so I would say, especially if early on, to leave that to the side,
Right.
and really remove that from your tracking in terms of the business activity, the business creation activity that you're in. Because it
Yeah.
can get, I was just talking to a coach the other day. She sent me a breakdown of her weekly or monthly hours. I forget I think it was weekly or something like that. And the highest number of hours, it was either the highest or the second highest, was in watching educational videos, it was something like 20 or 30 hours in a week that she spent doing that. And she was sharing this as, hey, look at all the things I'm doing for my business. And I offered to her, it's great. Absolutely. You want to improve your skill, and that's not going to lead to you creating more money.
Yeah.
So just remove that from your count so that you actually get an accurate account of the money-making activities that you're in.
That's right. And I think this is so important. So I so appreciate you asking this question. It's a really important question. And also, when we do that, right, when we're in the, and learning is, I know coaches, who are so, they're some of the best coaches I know, and they're always reading and they're always learning. But they have a really clear distinction between that and business building activities, right? And they're really clear, watching this video of Steve Chandler or listening to his audio is really going to help me, but that's not the same. That's not going to result in another $1,000 in my bank account when I'm not engaging. Like if I'm engaging regularly and my hours look like 6 to 8 hours of really true serving, enrollment, nurturing, connecting, okay, then I can take half an hour and listen to this. You can make it like a buy-in if you've ever done CrossFit. So when you do CrossFit, sometimes there's these workouts where there's a buy-in to get to the next part of the workout, if you can believe it or not. So as if I want to do the buy-in, apparently, but they want you to. So it's we're gonna start with the buy-in is a run around the block, and then the workout starts. You don't start the workout till you complete the run. So you could reverse it. You could be like, I need to put in my 6 hours, then I get to listen to, watch, read, etc. So make it something that you have to earn. Make it something you have to earn. So where are we at time-wise, Jonny? How much time do we have?
8 minutes.
Good. Okay. So if there's questions, I see Kirsten Gum, is that her goal, 75 to 100K? That might have been 8 million. That might have been an hour.
It was from
I'm just glad to see those numbers, Kirsten. I just want you to know that. All right. So blind spots about money. Blind spots about accuracy of money being a must. This is a really important piece to start to consider the possibility that there are blind spots operating that you are not currently aware of that you want to get aware of, right? Because just like our clients and potential clients have money stories, so do we. And sometimes the money stories are related to work stories, right? So Jonny shared at the beginning, right? There's all these narratives about the lifestyle of coaching where it can occur like you don't have to work that much or that often. And if you've bought into anything like that, or if you're here and you did a certification program as a coach and this entire conversation about building your business was non-existent, or certainly the amount of time it was going to take was non-existent, and somewhere inside of you, you're like, wait a second though, that's not what I heard. Wait a second though, but I'm not supposed to have to do that. You have to handle any narratives or stories you have running that are stopping you from getting into full engagement and getting into full work days, right? And one of the greatest ways I know how to do that. Now there's a lot of great material out there about money. And my favorite, and many of you already know this, is Overcoming Under Earning by Barbara Stanny. We make that reading a requirement in the school. You can get her book on Amazon. I love Overcoming Under Earning because many of us are under earning even when we're making considerable money. So her whole premise is that you could be a millionaire and still be an under earner because of your thinking about money and the way you are relating to money. So that book, if you haven't read it yet, or it's been a couple years and you're not at the earnings you want to be at, make that part of your system. Like, I need to read that in the next month, not during business hours though. That does not count as like a business building activity, okay? But it's an important activity, and I don't want to complete today without talking about the internal material that can get in our way of earnings in a very real way. So it's an important, and plus your clients deal with this. So the more you can get aware and handle your own money limitations, the stories, the way you grew up around money, the decisions you've made, oh, I can only earn X, or only coaches who coach coaches make this much money, or only, I hear this one a lot, only if you coach in corporate can you make a lot of money. That is a big one. Not true. Completely inaccurate. So as a result, there are coaches walking around like, yeah, I can't really, earning good money as a life coach, you can't do it. That's just completely untrue. Completely untrue. I know coaches both who've done the school, are in the school, coaches who never did the school, and they're earning well over 6 figures doing life coaching. So just to really be clear, you want to, some of you and some of us run stories and then we don't show up for work, or we show up for work less. Is there anything you want to share, Jonny?
Yeah, I want to add just, this idea of blind spots around money. I would say I had so many blind spots around money, and it wasn't really until I became a good steward of my money where I really took my money seriously, because I was the person who was just swiping with my cards on everything, hoping and dreaming that one day it'll resolve itself on its own, and it absolutely didn't. And life really smacked me in the face with a tremendous amount of debt, credit card debt, and I ran out of credit, and I had to get very serious about it. And so I had to become a really good steward of my money. I had to learn how to budget. I had to learn how to track my money, to really understand what all of my expenses were for both my personal life and my business. My wife and I, we hired a money coach.
We got to give her a shout out because she's the best.
Roseski, she's the best. Sherry Roseski, hands down, saved our money life, and I will happily refer her to anybody who would find value in having a conversation with a money coach. She's amazing, and so really just treating it in a really, like, the way that I wanted money to be in my life. I had to treat it with the same respect that I wanted it to give me. And that was a real shift for me to make that change in my life.
I really
and in my business.
Jonny, I really appreciate you sharing that. And highlighting the way you and Elsie handled that, right? So I want to be clear. You know, Jonny, first of all, his story is so great, right? Because, you know, swiping, that wasn't my story, but I just didn't make a lot of money. Swiping, right? And then the reality smacking him in the face, and then him getting very diligent through utilizing a money coach and a finance coach to get real aware and real conscious. And making money a must includes making my money life work well, right? So I talk a lot about like, hey, it's hard to help others when we're struggling to pay our bills on time and we're struggling to manage our financial lives. I mean, Jonny is such a great example of that, because as he got that cleaned up and he got real, I mean, look, you know, he got really granular. And that's what Sherry obviously helped them do, about where they're spending money, how they do it. I mean, it's amazing what she does with people. But as a result, now Jonny's whole world is freed up. He's not thinking about that anymore. He's not thinking about his finances a good chunk of the time, because he doesn't need to, because it's handled. So if you're sitting here like Jonny was, you want to get on that, right? You know, I mean, my story was a little bit different. I mean, I didn't make a ton of money in my professional life up to becoming a coach, and that includes my career and my work that I loved at the University of Santa Monica. So for me, there was a big curve to have not earned a great deal and then to go, I'm capable of earning more. My own money ceiling, right? Inside, like this ceiling of, I could make, like, I could earn 200K a year. Like, I never saw, you know, my parents, they were amazing and they loved me, but I don't think they ever saw like, whoa, she's going to be a big earner. My dad was a banker. He was concerned that I could not add. He was like, she's doing badly at math. And I had all this stuff around, I'm bad at math, must mean I'm bad with money. Wasn't true. I mean, that's still a joke to this day. I'm like, oh, no. All I need to know how to do is add. And I can add big numbers. I can add big numbers as they come in, right? And I want to highlight for those of you that have, as we complete, like those of you in a spiritual practice or a spiritual community, like, this is not about money for money's sake. We can serve more when our lives are working well. We can serve more and we can do more. Jonny, his ability to serve people, now that that is all cleaned up, I have just watched it soar. I mean, people I know who are served by Jonny, they're just like, oh my gosh, he's amazing. So his own capacity to be there for others, to serve others, has grown as he's handled all the inner stuff and outer stuff related to money. Yeah. So I want to be clear that that can be a project you take on, and it doesn't have to happen separately, like, oh, I'll wait till I do that, then I'll create my business. No. Jonny did this all simultaneously. Like, it was messy. He was like, okay.
Very messy.
Oh, totally messy.
And we're at time. I just want to share.
So I will be looking at the comments after we complete. So I will respond to any questions that weren't answered. I will be on there. And then we will be back here next week for the final Facebook Live in the series. Theme will be revealed very shortly. And I just want to thank you, all of you. Like, really, the quality of participation, not just the roller derby names, but everything else was fantastic. And thank you, Jonny. And we will see you here next week. And if you want the handout on calendars or everything, write to me or Jonny, and we will get it to you, or message us via Facebook, okay? So we will see you next week.
All right. Bye.
See you later.